Hi, welcome to an early demonstration of the new EMAX ERP system. This is for the purposes of showing how the new system is going to look and the feel of the application. The infrastructure really of the application is the only thing that's in place. We're not intending in this video to show you all the functionality that's anticipated being in there. So it's really only for the purposes of showing how the design of it has come together and effectively the infrastructure of how it's going to work. So I'll go ahead and create a new blank database. I'm just doing that so that no test data that I've got in any other previous databases can cause problems. So it'll just take a second or two for it to completely build a blank database and initiate it with any startup data that we may have built into it. Okay, so there we have it. It's completely blank. This here is just stuff that I'm working on at the moment. You can customize these menus and have your own icons and such like on it. So I'm just about to start working on what's orders. It's kind of a placeholder in the application at the moment. That's kind of the next protocol is putting what's orders and the design for parts in place. Right now, what we have in place, like I say, are all the documents. So we have sales invoices, credits, sales orders, purchase orders, invoices, credits. We also have accounts in this version. So we have nominal postings, the nominal ledger, and you've got payments and bank accounts in here, and also refunds. One new piece of functionality which is quite important is transactions. Now, transactions basically are everything of importance in the system. Two types of transactions: there's a standard transaction and there's stock transactions. Stock transactions are kept separately. They are here and they basically don't log a full-blown transaction within the system. The reason we have the transactions now is that it's a centralized place to have effectively a list of everything that's going on within a company. The idea behind it is that we can then reference any document or any activity such as phone calls, emails, letters that you may receive, or faxes, incoming faxes, or even outgoing faxes, to any particular transaction within the system. By that, what I mean is a sales order is a transaction. So when you add a sales order, you give your customer a sales order number. That's the transaction number. And when they phone up, if they give you that transaction number, you can put it on the phone call, and it will get logged against that sales order, also against that customer and the contact that's making the call. So the same thing goes, if you've sent out a delivery and somebody calls up with a delivery number looking to track it or something along those lines. It's once again, it's a transaction, so it's easy to find them. They're all in the one place. By that, what I mean, I can show you if I go into tasks. Let's say there was an incoming phone call. Then this transaction box here allows us to effectively reference what transaction it is that the incoming call is related to. But I'll go ahead and do that in a minute. We'll see where that's coming from. The layout of the system is pretty much like Microsoft Outlook. This here is a preview screen. If I go to, and one of the things I need to do actually, which I'll go ahead and do, is add an employee, so that the system knows who it is that's actually putting in these transactions, and it will log that against. Otherwise, it was blank and looks a bit bizarre. So I'll just put me in there as that and save that. And you'll see this is the preview screen that's popped up. You may decide to use that if you like it. It works the same as Outlook. You click on it, you see the preview. It's called the reading pane in Outlook, I believe. You can turn it off over here, or you can put it down the bottom, the same as Outlook. Personally, I prefer it off, gives you more space on the lists. The lists are very similar to what exists in the existing RM6. If you right click, you get a column chooser, and you can. The difference with this one is that as the user, you can decide which columns you want to bring in to this view. They're not hard coded, therefore you have complete control over how much information is brought back every time you click on one of the menu items. Um, that has its advantages. For example, if you have a list of 100,000 potential contacts, yeah, if you were to bring back every single column that's on a contact, if I open up that screen, you'll see there's quite a number of fields in there. If you were to fill all that data up and had 100,000 of them, you would get a slight delay bringing all that information across your network, where you probably are only going to be searching on potentially name or postcode, or the customer number. You know, there's a few things that you would search on. You wouldn't go searching on currency. You probably wouldn't search on their date of birth, you know, etc., etc. So a clever thing to do, to speed your system up, is to actually tell it which columns you want to bring across and which ones you don't. I can go ahead and delete all these ones that have come across automatically in this. This box that I'm in here is format columns. So the columns that come in, you can actually format them, change the colour, change the font. You can actually put formulas in there, so that you can have a calculated column. So that's, you'll see it's only got one column in there now, and I'll go to column chooser and bring back the ones I want. So let's say I'll have name, and we'll have the customer number. Now, one of the newest things about the new version is designed in is the ability for you to drill down and create your own queries on the data. So for this contact, I want the company name, so I can drill down into the company and bring back the company name as well. Now, I could also bring back the assistant's name. So if I've got an assistant, I can bring back their name and save that. You'll see it's brought that back. Now you can also go into format columns, and so that one there's the assistant. So I could actually change that caption to assistant. Save that, and you'll see that it's changed that. Now that will save that on a per user basis. So you only have to set that up once. You can also set them up per filter in a similar way to RM6 as well. So I am just going to log out at the moment and go back in. Because I added that employee record in, it now understands that I am that employee, so I associated this user login with that employee record inside HR. You'll see there I associated that username with that name. What that means now is that whenever I add something, so if I was to add a sales order, for example, you would see that on the created by, I'll go ahead and create a customer here. The salesperson was automatically added as myself. That was one of the other things that it picked up. So whoever adds a contact actually becomes that contact's owner, and the owner is used as the salesperson when it comes to a sales order by default. So one of the things I've just noticed is that there's no currency there. That's because I haven't set a default currency up, so I'll just do that now. There we go. And I'll just set that customer's currency, which is down here, to pounds. Now that would have happened automatically if I had done that prior to adding that customer. So that's the sort of thing that you would expect to be built into the system anyway. Okay, I'll go ahead and add this sales order. You can see similar to the old system, but just a much fresher look and feel. Related documents are related to the transactions, so it's almost like you've got a document management system. All your documents in the one place, but they can be related. Each individual document can be related to multiple items. So the transactions are quite central to the design of the new system. As you can see here, that's the transaction number. So basically the sales order number. Go ahead and add an item. Item 1 will be fine. Tax rate, just add VAT 20%. Now these are nominal ledgers. You don't have to use these, but these are basically for the account side of things. So set up a purchase nominal and a sales nominal for that VAT code, and for this part we'll set up a sales nominal. So you could just have that called sales, or you could have individual ones for each individual item if you wanted to, or for group codes, or whichever way you want to set your accounts up. And a purchase nominal for that as well. We'll just call that purchase. Okay. So we'll have a quantity of 10, and we'll say the price is 10, and you'll see it's calculating all this for you. Okay, the grids inside each of the forms are exactly the same as the grids out here. So this one here, you'll notice that I didn't have to go into a column chooser like this one. This one's actually got built into it the way that we wanted that list to appear. And that will happen prior to release of the system. We will have set all the lists up on all of them with a default set of columns to try and minimize you having 200 columns on a list where you only actually need 4 of them. But you can, like all the other lists, you can go ahead and you can use column chooser and you can bring all the fields in that you want there. I've just brought in those 4, and that's hard coded into the system, so that when you get the database initially, that's what it'll look like. So that functionality is built into the system now. So let's say you can bring back any of these that you wish. So if you wanted the group code on that list, you can drill down and pick the group code. One of the big benefits of this, let's show you that's actually working. I'll go ahead and add a group code. There we go, and the group codes appear. One of the big benefits of this is that it's only bringing back the data that you request. So it basically builds the query on the fly to bring back each of the columns that you actually request there. So it's very efficient in that respect. And like I say, if you limit the number of columns you bring back, the faster the system will go, and the less network usage you're going to use as well. So it's going to be the case that when we release the system, we will have the minimum number of columns that we feel that most users actually require, and people can add them in like that one I just did there to suit themselves. But by having it so that most users have got a limited number of columns, it will stop your server being taxed basically, and having to constantly be feeding thousands of data across the network. So it's another benefit of the new system there. The controls, fairly standard. Calendar controls. You have calculator controls, and so on and so on. There's nothing much else that I need to show you here. Formatted boxes. These boxes are going to be actually HTML as the actual format. Doesn't mean much to most of people. Doesn't matter, to be honest. As a user, you're not going to see it. The reason for that is that this version, the first version that comes out, will be Windows based. There will be a web based version coming out. To display formatted notes across the web, really it has to be HTML. So these formatted boxes are going to be, well, that one is actually HTML. Previously we used rich text format. You may have seen that on some reports. Crystal Reports handled it, so you could do formatted text and it would print out. The new versions of Crystal Reports actually handle HTML text, so that's allowed us to create this in such a way that we will produce a Windows version, sorry, a web version of this. And that means that you could basically have it sitting in the cloud. You wouldn't even know where your data is actually sitting. All you'll know is that it's secure and being backed up by somebody large like Microsoft or Google or such like. So that is in the pipeline, and we are actively working on that, the web version of it. Okay, now anything else on here I need to show you? Most of the forms now have this 3 delivery. So you have a ordered by, delivered to, and invoice to on this. It's just sort of standardised the forms. It also has a fairly neat way of searching. You'll see the boxes that are white. If somebody calls you up and says, "Can I place an order?" You can take their account number, you can take their name, their postcode, or their telephone number, and search for them in that way. I'll show you what I mean by that. If I go in and put a postcode in here of 6028, let's say, and I'll just go ahead and save this one so you can see that there are sales orders in there. If we add a new one, you'll see that I can take somebody's postcode and basically it's going to find all that information. So a fairly straightforward way of searching for customers, and that's standardized throughout the entire system. So you can use their account numbers, their names, postcode, or telephone number. If anybody's got any comments on that, or any other ways that you would search for customers, contact names, suppliers, then please feel free to let us know. What I would say is that you still have available to you the full search facility of opening up a list and using all the search filters to actually find your contacts and so on. So you're not limited to that. And the drop downs work in the same way. Drop downs in this version are fully list enabled, the same as these are. You can actually resize them as well, and it will remember that. In your drop downs, you have the same functionality. You can actually column choose which columns you want to see in the drop downs. So once again, you can go in and you can limit this so that it's not bringing back all these columns that you don't need. We will have set that up to what we think is correct, but you'll be able to go in and design that the same. So you can go into there and do that on the drop downs, and it will remember that across your system as well. So won't bother saving that one. Okay, now so I'll go ahead and raise an invoice for that particular sales order. Now that was for part 1, so it should be a requirement for part 1. Maybe I didn't put a delivery in for it. Just give me 1 second. We'll go ahead and raise the invoice for that, and there we go. So nothing much to report in here. fairly standard, straightforward. There will be more boxes and functionality added to this as we go along. What you're seeing right now is just the infrastructure of the system. So there's no what shall I say, utility code going on in the background that does a lot of stuff for you, other than that raise invoice and raise credit note that you're seeing there. So all these forms are kind of manual at the moment, just to test the data and the underlying structure. Right. The reason that happened is that accounts are in play at the moment, and there is no account for that customer. So if I go to here, and this is just in test at the moment, but it's actually looking for a sales ledger. So here we go. And hopefully I won't post it. So it came up with 0 there because I've already raised 10 against it. So that one should actually have posted to the nominal ledger. Yeah, there you go. So there's the 120. The accounts is fairly straightforward at the moment. You just have the nominal ledger, which effectively are these. The postings, which are each of the individual postings, the effectively journal entries. Transactions are there. You can see them building up. There's 2 sales invoices, sales orders. Payments, I'll go ahead and see if the payments are working. Excuse me a second to figure this one out. Basically, once again, all this stuff is kind of in test, but what I forgot to do was add a bank account. So the bank needs a nominal code as well, and we'll just call that bank, and we'll pay that invoice there. And see whether that worked. Okay, so as well as sales orders, sales invoice you saw, and the credit notes are there, almost identical to sales invoices. You have purchase orders, so very similar. You'll see that activities are in here, as they're all transactions. They can all have activities against them. So if I, for example, go to that sales order, which was transaction number 1, sales order, like I said before, if I have an incoming phone call, I can relate that to sales order 1. This drop down is set up. We know it's that one there, number 1, and somebody's calling up to say you know, where is my delivery? And you can prioritize it and do whatever you happen to be doing with that. You can have it so that it sends an email to somebody to inform them they need to actually deal with this task. You follow-up tasks and so on and so on. That's the CRM side of the system, which we'll go into in some depth in a future video. It's not polished enough at the moment for me to actually go through it right now. There's been a few changes made to it recently that I need to make sure are working before I do anything else with it. But that's in essence here what we have. The tasks, appointments, and emails. Effectively, you can synchronize that with Microsoft Outlook. The emails, you can have it sending emails in multiple ways. You can have it so that you can send them via SMTP directly via a server, or you can directly plug it into Outlook so that it actually sends your emails via Outlook and also receives them via Outlook. We're working on Google Apps Gmail version of this as well, which will be IMAP email. The appointments, phone calls, and letters. Letters Microsoft Word if you add that. But you get this the same sort of idea. You can relate it to a given project, sort of transaction rather. So if I go ahead and save that one, you should see on sales orders by going to there and activities. No, that's just because the column needs set up. Subject, type, save that. There we go. So that's showing you all the activities that have occurred. So all phone calls, emails, faxes, letters, and appointments that you may have for that particular sales order. Works particularly well when we're dealing with opportunities, which are like inquiries. So you've got, from a sales point of view, you can see everything that's been going on within a particular inquiry. So this customer is potentially going to buy. You can track all the phone calls that you've made going out the way and emails coming in the way against that particular inquiry, and even Microsoft Word documents. So put a phone call against and we should see we have an opportunity there that we can link that against. So the tasks are basically the CRM in that you can track all ingoing and outgoing communications with your customers and suppliers, and reference them against what sort of transaction is within your organisation that all those communications relate to. And the communications themselves can be set up so that they're what we call always active. So like an opportunity should never be in a state where there's not an open activity for somebody to do. What we mean by that is that it shouldn't come in, be logged into the system as an opportunity, and then lie in a tray somewhere and nobody does anything. With the always active tick box, we can make it so that the system will automatically ensure that there's always a task required against that opportunity, so somebody has to call them back in 2 weeks time, and it will pop up a reminder for that person, send them an email. When they carry out that task, it will then ask them what next, and force them to add another task with a date on it for somebody to do something else until such times as the opportunity is either won or lost. So it's a fairly good piece of functionality. It takes a little bit of your, what we've found is that it takes a little bit of your sales team getting used to the idea that they have all these tasks sitting there, because the opportunity may be lying dormant for 6 months, but there'll be a task on the list to phone that person in 6 months' time. From a non-sales person's point of view, then that's a great idea. But some people seem to have a problem with having all these tasks. So it's an individual company thing. You'll have to decide on your own what you think's best. But it's a system set, and you'll be able to turn on the always active on individual types of transactions. You may want to do it with sales orders as well. So that a sales order has always got something happening and doesn't just lie there without anybody processing it, and so on and so on. Okay, I'll have a look and see what else there is to show you. I think you've seen most of this. It's just the transactions, refunds, and payments, and sales opportunities. These are just different types of contacts, companies. You basically see if I add a company, it's just a contact. Slightly different fields. An individual contact, a person doesn't have a turnover. You can actually flip between them here. You'll see it changes slightly. Different fields, a date of birth. A company doesn't have a date of birth, and so on and so on. You can see the different types of contact there, and you can also promote from one to the other. So if you have a potential contact customer, until they've actually ordered, you probably don't want to make them an actual customer. So once they have, you can promote them. Now that happens automatically when you put a sales order in. It promotes them to a customer and ticks this box. Okay. These are just the demographics of all your contacts. Campaigns is actually like a marketing campaign, which you can add multiple contacts to, and has multiple opportunities. So what you can set it to do is, you may have a mailing campaign, and you go ahead and add your contacts, and you basically, when you hit this add new, it will give you a list, and you can multi-select them, so you can filter them down to maybe an area, a city, or to a particular demographic, like an industry or a region or a sector, and you add them in, and when you basically create a template that allows you to send out like an email or a letter to every one of them, you can then monitor the response from that campaign using the opportunities and the marking the incoming communications against the particular opportunities that are created for this campaign. So that's part of CRM again, which, let's say, we'll go into in greater depth once it's all finalised. But that's fairly new to the system. Customer service. Effectively just a way of logging incidents coming in. Allows you to record the incoming communication against the customer support, which is a transaction, and record all the activities that follow from that. You can also have them always active, so that you don't have support incidents that don't get answered. So the knowledge base is effectively, when you're using customer support, you can search the knowledge base based on what the person asked you. So if somebody phones you up and says, I've got machine A and I'm getting problem B, when you type that in, you hit a button, and it goes and searches the knowledge base and will return back any documents in the knowledge base that it finds that are containing those keywords that you've typed in. So just basically a way of setting up a help desk effectively for any of your products, and recording how much calls you're getting. Maybe there's a particular problem on a particular machine, and it's a good way of actually analysing that and finding out where you have got problems. Once again, part of CRM, and I will create a video specifically on CRM and go over what's in the system. Okay. HR, just employees at the moment, nothing much in there. We will start adding training, all sorts of things, qualifications, what's it called, health and safety, and absences and holidays and so on. We have a design for that we've done before, and we'll add all that in here before release. The email here for the user is where you can see some of the stuff that you don't have to worry about too much. Your IT department would set this up, but effectively it allows the system to send you emails when there's any alerts. Anything from the production manager needing to be sent an email when a particular job goes out with its costing by 10%, then that can be set up. But this is just a way of setting up the individual email addresses for individual users so that it knows how to contact that user and the best way to do it. Okay, so and inventory. Okay. The stock system, we have stock transactions and stock here. If I do a miscellaneous receipt, I should be able to bring some stuff into stock. And these are the individual stock batches. Let's say fairly soon there will be built in that if it's an automatic part, you don't need to add the batches yourself. You just add the total quantity and it would build the batches for you. At the moment, this is all in test, so we basically have every form in use, and have to do all these things manually until that comes along. So that's a piece of stock gone in, and we should be able to issue that stock as well. So I'm going to issue that, and the batch I'm going to issue it from, and the quantity I'm going to issue is 5. We'll go ahead and save that. And there we go. And stock transactions has got them all listed. Now, one of the important things about this version of the system is that the values of in stock on the items and the stock records and so on should never get out of sync. A lot of work been put into ensuring that if I was to put a profiler on SQL Server as such, I'll show you what happens when we issue a piece of stock. Okay, this window is effectively going to show me all the SQL statements that get sent to the server. So this is how EMAX is actually communicating with the database server, which is currently Microsoft SQL Server. You'll see if I click on these group codes, if I go to this, you can see the commands coming through, so that's selecting. And you can actually see that these are the columns that are coming through, and if I go ahead and do a format columns and take out the category and take out date created and date modified and save that, you see that I'm only bringing across those 2 fields now, as opposed to what it was bringing across was those 4 fields. So that just shows you how it actually does build up these queries in the background. To show you something that was a lot of work done on was to make sure that when we issue a piece of stock, so if I do a miscellaneous issue and issue this, and we'll just issue 2 of them and save that. Let's issue the stock. It issued the stock in one command. There wasn't multiple commands updating different areas of the database, which could potentially lead to figures getting out of sync. Occasionally happened in the old version. The people who it's happened to will know about it. So this is just to basically say that that has been fixed, that problem. Effectively, this big command here, if anything goes wrong, then the whole thing rolls back, and it will not, you'll see the rollback on raise error, it will not cause your data to get corrupted. So a fair amount of work went into that, and it's working fairly well. So the stock transactions are completely transactional. Everything to do that happens during a stock transaction is packaged into one command, and if that fails for any reason, network going down, whatever it happens to be, then it rolls back the whole thing. So fairly safe. And the same thing is actually happening for the nominal ledger. So any postings to the nominal ledger is transactional. And as long as I haven't made a mistake in the code, then if there's any errors, it will roll it back. So nominal ledger should stay squared. Okay. I think I'll leave it at that for the moment. It should give you a flavour of what's going on at the moment. We are pretty much there with regards to the infrastructure. There's a few changes to be made to CRM to bring it into line with some stuff that happened recently over here with transactions. So the customer support side of it needs to be brought back in line with that, and the CRM side of it brought back in line. From there, we will be working on works orders, and obviously you saw the part screen is basically a placeholder for to allow us to enter that in. So within the next week or two, you'll start to see an actual part screen with bills of materials and routings and such like, and works orders going in there. The requirements, which is basically your works order requirements, your purchase order requirements, they are there. Yeah, they're popping up now. So they are there. So you've got delivery requirements in there for a particular sales order. Okay, but we don't have any functionality in there right now to raise works orders because the works orders aren't actually in place. As soon as they are, you'll be able to raise works orders and raise purchase orders against these requirements, as you can do at the moment. So it's coming along. If you have seen this video, then keep your eye out. There should be some more coming along. I'll probably try and do a video per week, or at minimum once every 2 weeks, to show the progress of the system. Okay, thank you for watching.